U.S. Constitution, so that corporations are not the equivalent of people and that money is not the same as speech, or in other words, overturn the Supreme Court Citizens United decision?
Yes, I would.
Okay, would you like to explain your
yes. One of the things that has happened in elections is that they have become exorbitant in their price, and part of the reason is because of Citizens United. By declaring that corporations could give as much money and they could do it behind the scenes, the cost of elections is out of control. Whatever the thing was that Mr. Ramsey held up is a direct result of that type of thing, of the super PACs, etc., and that's a result of Citizens United.
All right, Mr. Wilson, would you like me to repeat the question, or do you have?
I didn't know we were married, but I am married to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ramsey, I didn't say that, didn't I?
I couldn't live up to my wife's maiden name.
I'm sleep talking at this hour of the day. I apologize, Mr.
Wilson is
Ramsey.
a very good name. So,
That's right. Your maiden name of your life, is it not?
absolutely.
Would you like me to repeat that question?
You can, I apologize.
Would you support efforts aimed to amend the U.S. Constitution so that corporations are not the equivalent of people, that money is not the same as speech, in other words, to overturn the Supreme Court Citizens United decision?
I think that we've got to protect the First Amendment, and the First Amendment means an individual, whether it's Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, can go out and buy billboards or do whatever in the heck they want to promote whatever agenda they have, just like little old me can go out and petition our county commissioners and say, you know, here's what I think we should do. So, you know, I think we need to have transparency. We need to know where the money's coming from. We need to have full disclosure. And, you know, so I would support anything to include transparency, to know who's trying to buy elections. And, you know, I'm very familiar with it. I appreciate the pretty pictures, because you don't get very good pictures of me, but, you know, groups are sending out all kinds of stuff that quite frankly aren't true. But in a free society, that's why we have this forum, because I'm here and I have the opportunity to say it's not true. This is not the facts. Never cut spending. Never for education. Was endorsed by our teachers on multiple occasions.
That is your time. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to start this question with you, Mr. Ramsey. I do have the name right. What is your position on the Equal Rights Amendment? Why or why not would you support it?
Well, my wife contends women are not equal to men. They are superior, and hence, you know, I certainly am living in a house full of women. My mother-in-law lives right across the hall, and my mother lives about a half a mile down the road. So if I did anything that would offend women, I would be in serious trouble. Bill Stanley gave me the best advice in my marital life 7 years ago when me and my wife got married, that every argument he has with his wife, Jane Stanley, ends in yes, ma'am. That's why they've been married over 50 years. And so, certainly, I'm willing to look into supporting the Equal Rights Amendment. We already have the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause, and under that, everyone is created equal and deserves equal treatment.
So specifically, your response is you would look into it? Or
The last time ERA was discussed in North Carolina, I was in elementary school in Fairview Elementary. So if that comes on the agenda at the General Assembly, then I'm willing to discuss it. And that beautiful little girl on the front row, and my mother-in-law who lives in my house, and my mother down the road, you know, I'm going to listen to what they say, because if I don't, my life is not going to be very pleasant.
all right, thank you, sir. Ms. Wilson?
I would definitely support the ERA. I think if the ERA had passed, we would not have seen some of what happened on the national level or the state level. I don't think we would have had a discussion on women's health that excluded women. It was a panel of only men. And so, yes, I would support the Equal Rights Amendment. We needed the 14th Amendment, depending on who is making the decision, does or does not cover women. I believe there was a statement by Scalia, and I could be incorrect, but I believe that he said specifically that the Constitution didn't cover women.
All right, thank you. I want to remind everybody, please turn off your cell phones or put them on silent or vibrate. Also, if you have a question you would like asked and you do not have a note card, raise your hand. We will bring a note card to you, and then when you're done writing out your question, raise the card up, and we will pick it up and bring it up to me. All right, we'll start with you, Ms. Wilson. What can be done to increase accountability in North Carolina schools? Tenure does not seem to work. Throwing good money after bad with the top-heavy school systems is how it's worded here.
Actually, school administration is a minuscule portion of the budget. When you're looking at tenure, there was a reason why tenure was passed. And it was passed because what happened was every time an administration changed, or the party changed, everybody got fired and a whole new set came in. And so we kept changing teachers sort of like a revolving door. So anybody that had, experience kept getting lost and we kept getting new people. That's the reason behind tenure. I think that there are ways of giving acknowledgement to teachers who do well, and to look at ones just like you would anywhere. If they're not doing well, then there should be ways of retraining them, and if the retraining doesn't work, then looking into ways that they can be let go.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ramsey?
I think the best thing the state can do to improve accountability in our schools is to let those decisions be made at the local level. Currently, all these decisions are made out of Raleigh. They micromanage your school budget. If you're serving on the school board, you only have any discretion with really your local county dollars. And that's the wonderful thing about being a county commissioner, is you sit down with your school board members and your teachers and the administration to hear what their needs are and to try to address and solve problems. When I was on the Board of Commissioners, every month I met with our school personnel to see what we could do to help improve Buncombe County schools. And if I'm elected, the first piece of legislation that I will introduce is to make the state funding go directly to school boards with some accountability standards, but let those local school boards make the decision with the state dollars that they receive.
All right, on a related note, but I'll give you a full minute if needed. Do you believe schools are adequately funded currently? And if not, what would you do to increase funding? And we will start with you, Mr. Ramsey.
I think in every organization, there's always a need for additional resources. So, I think our schools, I think our private business, our dairy farm, we need funding. There's a lot of things we need to buy, a lot of capital expenditures we need to make. Unfortunately, in life, we have to make difficult decisions. I do think in state government, before we start raising taxes, there's a lot of areas of redundancy and duplication, especially in the university system, the community college system, that we need to root out and to become more efficient. But I have a proven record. Over 8 years on the Board of Commissioners, I increased school funding 51%. I voted for 8 county budgets. We never cut funding 1 year. Was endorsed by Buncombe County teachers 2 times. Spent a significant amount of money on school capital projects. So I think I have a record of supporting our schools and supporting our teachers.
Ms. Wilson?
We saw severe cuts happen at the state level that have made a huge impact on the local level, and it's made impacts all across the state. Last year we lost 88 teachers because of school cuts, and we have increased the number of kids that are coming into our school system. Not only did we lose teachers, we lost teachers' assistants, we lost the money for supplies. Teachers are spending $300 out of their own pockets to provide supplies that their students need. They also had a minuscule raise, and their insurance has gone up. So we are actually relying on teachers to provide things that I think the state needs to provide. And we need to refund our schools at an adequate level. And we also need to look at our priorities and put our children first.
We'll start with you, Ms. Wilson, on this question. Environmental protection seems to be a partisan issue quite often. The question specifically is, would you ever oppose an environmental protection bill, and under what circumstances? And Mr. Ramsey, when it comes to you, the question is, would you ever support an environmental protection measure and under what circumstances?
I think it would depend on what was in it. I think that there may be some regulations that go too far. We want to have common sense regulations. We want to have things that will protect but not hinder development. So there may be a bill that I would look at and decide that we need to send back to committee because it needs to be modified.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey.
Well, I have a record of when I was on the Board of Commissioners of supporting environmental protections. Buncombe County is a leader in land conservation. Before I was on the board, the county had devoted a couple $100,000 for land conservation. After I was on the board, it certainly wasn't all my doing because nothing positive happens because of one person. It takes a team effort, and you know, when good things happen, you got to spread the credit around. When bad things happen, people tend to want to blame you. But I voted for stormwater controls in Buncombe County, voted for some steep slope regulations, but where I'm not going to vote for regulations that where it harms affordable housing, it doesn't make sense for the cost involved. Also, we supported Clean Smokestacks Act and Senate Bill 3, the Renewable Portfolio Standard, as a resolution when I was on the board. So I think I do have a record of supporting environmental rules when I think they make sense.
All right, Mr. Ramsey, we'll start with you. Would you vote to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act? Why or why not?
First 5 years, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to take free money whenever I can from the federal government. They have a printing press. State government does it. And the last time I checked, I don't think county government does either. So when the state's going to pick up all the Medicaid costs, that makes sense. The structural problem with state budgets is really a large part of that is with Medicaid. It's just not North Carolina. Every state in the nation, their Medicaid expenditures have been growing far faster than any source of revenue they have. In North Carolina in 1990, Medicaid constituted 5% of our state budget. Today it was over 15%, growing to almost 20%. So, you know, what I'm going to support is Senator Alexander out of Tennessee has got a bill that proposes that the federal government take over all of Medicaid costs because the federal government sets the rules. So let the federal government figure out how to solve health care. And in exchange, the states take over all transportation and school funding. That's about an even swap.
Mr.
And I
Ramsey,
think we
your
would have
time.
more accountability.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Wilson?
Yes, I would agree with the Medicaid expansion under the Affordable Care Act.